All right, welcome everyone to the very first And Asset Show 1. We got Austin Williams in Idaho. We got Dom Rufran in Colorado. And we got your host, Caleb Guilliams, coming from Nashville, Tennessee. And guys, I thought I would come with the OG And Asset sweatshirt, first edition. I've had this for many years, and I bring it out on special occasions. And I thought, we're gonna have a very exciting life insurance podcast. Why not just get this thing started the right way? And so, anyways, Austin, I know you're traveling with the fam. How have you been?
Man, it's been a roller coaster of the last 10 days, Caleb's. Yeah, as you said, I've been traveling with my family. We normally are headquartered out of mid-Missouri, about halfway between Kansas City and St. Louis. And we went to summer camp south of Denver in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains over the last week as a family. And so I got to spend some really good quality time with my girls and my wife. And then we had been planning this for a long time, as if that wasn't enough, because going camping for a week straight is, obviously a lot of logistical, challenges and planning that goes into that. We then drove north another 17 hours, almost to Canada. We're like 2 hours south of Canada, to this town called Sandpoint, Idaho. And that's where we're going to be for the next 6 weeks. We just wanted to try living somewhere else for a while, see what it was like.
I love it.
Cool and recreational opportunities here.
The beautiful thing about the working virtually is you can work anywhere. And I think just even modeling that for your family, I think it'll be fun to get updates on the pros and cons of doing a 6-week deal.
Oh yeah.
Dom, I know you got to see Austin in person. You had a funny story that you shared earlier about going camping. I for those of you that don't know Dom, you know that camping and hiking put together are not on your top 10 list, to say the least.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that are not on a list of things that I don't enjoy, and that's at the peak, including with moving, including with anything with cars, building, pictures. I live in Colorado, and surprisingly, yeah, I'm just not that type of person, outdoors and all that. So call me an anomaly, but that's definitely it. In Austin, I went to go visit him, and he had me and my family hike 45 minutes by accident by the wrong directions when it should have been a 2-minute walk. So I'm grateful for Austin for bringing my family closer together, having my 2.5-year-old son falling in the dirt, his face deep in the ground, and me saying, hey, get up, let's go. And it just be a great time. So thank you, Austin Williams, for the adventure.
Pleasure is all mine, Dom. Pleasure is all mine. I'm glad that I got you and your family hiking just in the worst way possible. So we were talking like the whole week leading up to it. I was like trying to give you like really good directions, and I realized like on the back end, like there's definitely some things I could do differently when you have zero cell service. This is like, there's a very few times in our life when we have to live without the internet and without instant communication. And then when we don't have it, we realize that like we have this muscle, or I have this muscle that I've just never used. And it's so withered and it's so underperforming of just like explaining somebody something really good, like way far in advance, and not being able to call and like confirm and do all this stuff. So
yeah,
the pleasure is mine.
The directions were literally go to the second entrance and then go take a right and then go all the way to the top of the hill. So we did exactly that, but there was a right that he missed. So we went to the first right versus the second right, which is what he meant to say. But the easier thing would have been go to the merchandise center and literally walk 2 minutes to the left and you'll be there. And that would have been.
I feel like we could come up with plenty of analogies, life insurance analogies. That's what we're going to do on the show. Yep. We're just going to be talking about life insurance, and I'm pretty sure I'll be surprised if it'll just be humbling to see the people actually watch this. But believe it or not, there are weirdos out there that want to watch grown men talk about life insurance and all, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see the life insurance nerds. Where are you? You guys should definitely let us know in the comments, and this is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that we're going to talk about on the show. Today we're going to open up with just getting to know each other and the epiphany of how you learned about life insurance, because we all have different epiphanies around just like, life insurance is not something that you just stumble upon, or it's not like in high school, Austin, you're not saying, you know what I want to do? I want to help people set up life insurance policies. Like that's just not a thing. And also there's a lot of other cooler things that we could be doing. Like just even representing something that's not life insurance, like investing, or just like there's so many other things that you could be way cooler than being like, yeah, I help people set up life insurance policies, or I'm a nerd when it comes to life insurance. And so the reason I find that interesting is a lot of times there's stories behind it, and there's conviction that might be greater than the average, person. That's, you have to have extra conviction, I think, to do this, because why do this if there's not a reason? And so that is the purpose of this episode, number one. I know that there's going to be further episodes. We're going to be going through a book review of R. Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. We're going to do the book review of The And Asset, and there's going to be lots of other topics. And it will be fun to go through it with people, because I know that there's people that will want to join us along our journey. And I'm excited to learn from both of you, because the beautiful thing is we all think differently, which is great. If we all thought the same, this would be a really boring show. But I'm looking forward to arguing, pushing back, agreeing, having epiphanies, and all the above. And so is anything that you guys want to say before we jump into the stories?
I think the answer is no, minus context of people, but maybe that, for people for the first time watching, you might not know who Caleb, Austin, or Dom is, in just regards to who we are relative to the And Asset show. So I think that's relevant, besides just jumping into testimonials. But it's like, also, why us? Why the three of us versus anybody else on the team, right? That's also, I think a great valid thing just to bring up, knowing it's the first episode.
Well, so I'll set the stage here. So if you're watching, this is your very first video that you're ever watching on any of our channels, thank you. My name is Caleb Guilliams. I'm the founder of BetterWealth.com. And part of the things that we do at Better Wealth, our purpose is to help people better their wealth by living more intentionally. And intentional living is very much our stance, and we do that a couple different ways. One of the things that we're most known for is helping people set up life insurance. And that's what this whole show is going to be about. Is life insurance is not just a protection vehicle. It's not just a savings vehicle. It's not just a thing that can help you in retirement. There's a lot of things that can happen when you set it up and use properly. We've been doing this for many, many years. We have clients all over the country, and we have an incredible team. And so that's who I am. Dom, why don't you introduce yourself, what you do with the company. Austin, you can then follow, and then we'll give a couple shout outs to the people that aren't on the show that very much could, but we'll explain why it's the three of us, the three foolish people that committed to doing something like this. I think we just we drew the short ends of the sticks, and so we're all here, and we're figuring it out.
Amazing. Thanks, Caleb. And as everybody listening, Caleb is our visionary, and you can hear that when he speaks and how he communicates. The things that we've built, we've created, whether it's the channels, the show, our events, majority of it came to life because of Caleb's vision. So we're grateful for what he started, and how he leads us in the direction that we're heading. For myself personally, I am the president of Better Wealth, and so I run and operate the company, and that entails many things. And so I actually used to do lots of content. So for some of you that are watching, like, hey, where's Dom been? The And Asset channel, Caleb and I started that at the early stages of it that you're watching right now. And then I took it over and started just doing content exclusively on it. And then as we started to grow as a company, it became hard for me to do that. And we realized that it was more advantageous to bring on other people to the show. And I haven't been on the channel in, I think it's been like 7-8 months at this point in time. So for me, I'm really excited to just be here, do content again. Obviously, if there's any questions, comments, anything that you guys have that you want to know, please let us know. That I'd be more than happy to answer. But this is going to be a great series and a great time.
Amazing. Yeah, Dom, 7-8 months, that's like an eternity as far as the internet is concerned. You pretty much stopped existing for people in the outside world. So thank you, Caleb, and thank you, Dom, for kind of painting the picture for what Better Wealth does. I'm a wealth coach at Better Wealth, and I'm a wealth associate, and I'm more on the kind of the ground floor of the company, as I'm kind of directly interacting with people who watch our videos. They want to learn more. They want to maybe even talk about their situation specifically. They're interested in life insurance. They call, they get on my calendar. I'm actually even kind of transferring to a slightly different role inside the company where, I'm going to be, focused on, maintaining existing relationships with clients. And so just kind of all part of the churn of, having a company that is constantly evolving and adapting and just kind of, responding to different needs in the marketplace. And I did not have a very obvious route into life insurance whatsoever. So this has been a bit of a wild journey for me to kind of end up in the seat that I am today. And we'll get a little bit more into kind of the specific parts of our histories that kind of led us to right here, right now. But simply put, from my first 2 jobs that I had to get into life insurance represents like a huge shift. And it's a very different kind of job than the jobs I've held in the past. But I think that I've brought some of the best parts of that into it with me so that it's kind of helped me kind of do the job that I have even better today. So that's a really quick snapshot into who I am and what I do at this company.
Yeah, Austin, the people that you've been able to serve on the front end love you, and then a lot of our clients, if you've not had a conversation with Austin, you will here soon, and you are going to love the interactions. Austin, you're wholehearted in whatever you do, and we've had some of the videos that you've done on the And Asset show have performed extremely well. And that's one of the reasons why when we were trying to put this show together, we're like, okay, well, back in the day, Dom and I would just sit together, do 3 minutes of prep, and then just turn on the camera and just ramble. And people watched it. I mean, it just blows my mind. And so we're like, okay, we should do something where it's more casual. I find that people want to get to know us. They want to know what we're working on, what we're thinking on. This is not going to be scripted. We will have videos that are more to the point, scripted, and so people will be able to watch what they want to watch. But at the end of the day, we are thinking, okay, we want to do this show, and who can roll with the punches, and who would be a great addition. And Austin, you were our first choices. You said yes, which could be the biggest mistake of your life, but you said yes. Some honorable mentions. We'll still have Alden. He's going to be on both channels. He's one of our top wealth coaches and very technical product specialist. We have Demetrius, who's a wealth coach who does amazing content, incredible work with people. Justin, he's the freak in the sheets kind of deal. He loves the numbers and the case studies, and he's going to continue to do that. And listen, I mean, we all need some nicknames. So you'll learn in real time. Once we'll get some type of thing where it's like, Dom, you'll have your nickname, and Austin and myself, and this will be fun.
Let's just hope that Justin's nickname "Freaking Sheets" doesn't stick.
I'm curious to see what Justin's family thinks about that. But he owns it. He owns it, and I'm going to go with it. So with all of that being said, we're gonna start off by life insurance epiphanies. And really getting down to the journey, because I know I've had quite the journey of aha moments, and then I have to rethink my thinking even on the original aha moments. And so I want to just be very upfront with you. We make videos. I just made a video the other day talking about policy loans, and there's there's some people that are like, I made a ton of money buying cars with life insurance, and made a video to say, hey, listen, I appreciate the people out there that are making content that bring people into our world, but this is how the math works, and I would say things differently and laying things out. And I think it's important to have that truth aspect, but it's also important to realize that you're not going to get it right the first time always. And I know for myself personally, I cringe sometimes on thinking about what I said early. Even we're going to go through my book here on the show and beat it up. Lots of things I would do differently in writing the And Asset. And the And Asset sold over 20,000 copies. And we have clients today, and it's opened up doors today on an imperfect piece of content, opened up doors and has enriched our lives. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that. And if you're someone who's watching this that is waiting for the perfect time to get started on something, make this be your motivation to not. And we need to have enough humility to say, I was wrong. And there's a lot of people that are unwilling to say that. And so they're doubling down on things that aren't true, even if they know it's true. It's not true. So with all that said, Austin, I think you'd be a really good person to start off because you are, out of the three of us, the greenest when it comes on the newest addition to this. What I would love to hear is your story, and again, under 5 minutes, if you can, your story, which means 10 minutes. But,
yes, please. Yes, please.
Short.
And just like the life insurance journey you've been on, and I even know early on you were like amazing with people, but there were some things that were harder. It didn't click early on for you in some areas, and so I think it's important to even share some of the stuff of why didn't it all come naturally day one? What were some things that you had to wade through? What are some of the things that you're still working on and learning? I think that's going to be one of the most relatable things that people can learn, whether people are in the space. There's going to be people that are financial advisors, life insurance agents, representatives, financial professionals watching this, but there's going to be some of our clients and some people that are just like shopping around, seeing like who are we up, who are we, what are other people? And so with that context, I want to hear your life insurance epiphany story.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely learning is still obviously taking place every single day. I think so you alluded to earlier is like, I was picked to be a part of the show. I think one of the reasons I was picked is because I am an unrepentant extrovert and I love talking to people and I love the relationships that I have with others. One of my favorite phrases is that, strangers are just friends you haven't met yet. And that's just that's something that I kind of carry with me into life, is that like, I kind of look at each new interaction with somebody as, ultimately a chance for me to get out of my own story and get into the story of somebody else. Cause I think we often get trapped by the narratives, and specifically our own narrative that we're in. And so I love being a life insurance agent because, and I'll get into how I got here, is at first I was an English teacher. That was my first job. And to be an English teacher, you're all about stories. And there are 3 taboo topics in life, really, right? Pretty much death, sex, and money, right? These are the 3 taboo topics. And in my conversation, in my job, I get to talk with people about death and money every day. So I break like major taboos every single day with people. And you get to have some really nitty gritty kind of granular conversations. And that you would never normally get to have with another human being because I'm a life insurance agent and because they're not going to hold those things back from me. So I think that's really cool. As I said, I was an English teacher. That's when I met Caleb. That was technically my first foray into life insurance, was meeting Caleb so many moons ago, probably 10 years ago plus now. I met Caleb through his cousin, who I'm still really good friends with, Trevor. Love you, man. Living
Shout
in Nashville
out to
there. Shout out to Trevor. And I met Caleb at Trevor's wedding. Caleb was a groomsman. And at the time, I was going to be an English teacher. And I was like, that's the track I was on. So life insurance, finance, that was nothing. But I liked Caleb. And I'm an unrepentant extrovert. So I was like, I'm going to keep up with him. And I kept up with him throughout the years. I'd call him a few times a year, we talk back and forth or whatever. And that was great. And at some point I got his book, and I don't remember if you gave it to me. I don't remember if I bought it, but I read that book and I was like, I really like it. And this was like I said, 10 years ago, but I had a Dave Ramsey education, and I literally had Dave Ramsey. My finance class was like the Dave Ramsey book. So that was kind of so I was like, I trust what Caleb's saying about whole life, but at the same time, I know that whole life is evil and is bad. And so I just I had that tug and pull going on, and I didn't really know what to do with it. So I was like, I trust Caleb, but I also trust Dave Ramsey. What do I do with that? I don't know. So time goes on. I actually get into farming, and that's as an aside. We could go a long time into that, but we won't. But then after about 5 years, beautiful years of being a farmer, a youth pastor, I decided to make a switch for my family's sake, and I was looking around for new jobs, trying to find a way to make sense of an English teacher background and a farmer background. Quick side note, there is no way to kind of make sense of those. I tried really hard to be editing an agricultural journal or something. Didn't work out. And then through a very miraculous, God-ordained set of circumstances, Caleb was looking for some person to do writing for him. I also had a life insurance license, and we ended up making it into a job. Now, as far as Caleb said, are you still learning new things every day? What are the challenges? Absolutely. I had, relational side of things, I have like a strong relational instinct. Like that part came naturally, but like the thinking about numbers and like talking about them with people in a way that still felt relational, I think was a challenge for me. And just kind of getting it through my head. And we had some amazing people, like Demetrius is someone we haven't mentioned yet. Demetrius, who was my supervisor, who kind of walked me through like and how to really not like let things slip through the cracks. That was really important. That was something that I learned. So just kind of being surrounded with the right people and the incredible team that we have here at Better Wealth, which, you know, I'm not ashamed to say is I think like one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. Like I love our team. I love getting to show up and do what I do every day. And I think that, and we'll get into this later, but there was a couple things in your book that really like changed kind of the trajectory of my life a little bit. I didn't realize it at the time, but Caleb, when you specifically talked about average rate of return, it was something that, and how it's not actual rate of return, it blew my mind in so many more ways than one that we'll get into later. But that was like kind of like that initial piece that got me thinking about life insurance and how life insurance might not be what I was taught that it was. And eventually it's what led to me being here today.
It's awesome. Any follow-up questions you got, Dom? I know that.
I do. At least some things to add for sure. One, said nobody. I love being a life insurance agent. So, you know, kudos to that statement and the, you know, how you represent and show up. Yep. Just so you guys also know, from an unrepentant extrovert, he is not lying. Austin and I do one-on-ones to making sure that like accountability, we're doing the right things. We have to set a timer, like a legit 5-minute timer every meeting. And when that timer hits 0, I'm like, Austin, we got to go. And he does it religiously. He like starts sharing his screen. He's like, it starts ticking. Also, just for clarification, Trevor Wood is not Caleb's cousin. You know, we said big shout out to Trevor. Yeah. You guys know who Trevor Wood is. He's our head underwriter, head of servicing, serves people extremely well, but that is not the case. And Austin, what did you say that you don't ever talk about in school and stuff? It's death, money. What were the things that people like? It's
death,
taboo?
Sex, and money. 3
death,
taboo
sex,
topics.
And money.
Death,
well,
sex,
good
money.
Good thing with good thing with Justice Dick came. We'll probably get to talk about all of them on the show. So it's just
there we go. Hit all 3.
We'll set up an Only Finance channel for those of you that are interested. DM me if you're interested in learning more.
Overall, man, I'm blessed to be able to have you part of the team, hear your story, and it's been crazy to see your growth over the last year or so from where you're at to today. And it's night and day difference. So, and like, I used to be the life insurance guru and nerd behind the scenes that was doing a lot of this stuff. And I could design illustrations better than anybody on the team, like hands down. And now we're to the point as a team where Austin can design and structure life insurance policies way better than I can at this stage. And we have 4 other people on the team that can do that as well. And it's just mind blowing to see the growth in a very short period of time. So yeah, thanks for sharing, brother.
I'll just say, shameless plug, if you have policies that you want us to review, even if you're not a client, we'll review them for free. We'll have a link down below. And if you want to talk with someone on our incredible team, we'll also have a link there. Austin, I'll say this before we go to Dom and hear his epiphany, it's funny how Dom mentioned how him and his family are running around the wilderness trying to find you. We have an interesting story because when one of the first times we were together, this was when you were in farming, and I think you were a client of ours before you were on the team.
Yes, I was for many years.
That was something that you didn't mention.
Yep. No, I didn't. Yeah.
So you came to the house. We were living in Colorado, and you're like, "Hey, let's go to is it St. Mary's?
St. Mary's Glacier.
Let's go to St. Mary's Glacier and just like have a fun time and hike, and it's super like." Legit, we've done it many times, and so we're like, yeah, that sounds fun. And so April, my wife, comes along, and there's 2 ways that we could get to the point. And Austin, in his infinite wisdom, was like, yeah, let's go this way. And we're going, and my wife almost died like 4 times, you know, and she, let's just say, likes you now, but didn't like you at that day. And I remember thinking, you know, again, it's not like my wife's the most adventurous person in the entire world. She had her shoes that were like really worn down, so she didn't have the proper shoes. And we're like on this edge of this cliff, it seemed like, and like she's slipping, and she just sits down. She just sits down, and she's like, "I'm not moving." And we're like, "Well, you're gonna have to move. Like there's we're too far. We're over. Like you can't go back because it's too and you got to go." So it was just one of those things where it was like I cracked me up when Dom shared that, because I'm like, hey, Austin, Colorado wilderness, not a great combo. But you know, just setting the record straight there.
Definitely some good memories though.
Yeah, good memories. All right, Dom. If I were to ask you your life insurance epiphany and your journey, how would you answer that?
It's a great question, and there's actually a video that I've done on the And Asset channel, and it's actually labeled "Warning: How These Life Insurance MLMs Are Scamming People." Just know that's it's clickbaity to some degree, but also does be very direct to the point. And in there is a piece of like my testimony in the journey that I've been on, and I started as a IUL advocate only. Everything else was the worst thing in the world. I was like looking at illustrations and numbers, and that's it. And I was like, why would anybody put their money into a Roth, into the market, into whole life, like anything? Everybody should put 100% of all their money into an IUL, let this thing compound and grow over the next, 30 years, and you'll be set, based off of the way that the numbers looked. And then I started comparing like whole life and like actually looking at the numbers, and they were so bad with the company that I was looking at that it validated that belief. And then what ended up happening is two things that kind of like gave me a little mind shift into my journey. Was one, I was in a competitive situation because I was selling IULs only at that time with another company called Foresters. And it was the first time that I saw that a life insurance policy with whole life actually compared relative on the growth with the IULs that I was selling. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how is this possible? And the client actually ended up going with the whole life policy. And at that time, I didn't realize and I didn't know, but it's because the whole life that I was looking at the very first time was a stock company. So there was no dividends that was going back to the policy. So the growth really was long-term was like 2%. And then the Foresters policy was getting dividends that were coming back to the policy, which made it a lot more attractive, sexy, and actually made it way more competitive. And so that was like one of those like moments in time that just made me like think like, okay, maybe there's something that I don't know. And then the second pivot that really changed things was I met Caleb. And what ended up happening was we met at a networking event. We grabbed lunch.
It's a weird networking event.
It was a very weird networking event. That could be for a whole nother story, but very, very weird. But it's funny and ironic how God works all things together, because if we didn't go to that weird thing, like we wouldn't be here today. And so he shared with me his book. He shared with me his testimony, his faith. I did the same. And then he shared like, hey, I'm not a fan of IUL. Like, and he was like completely against it in a lot of ways at this time. This is a long time ago, just so you guys know, just across the board. There's even a video that of him and Dan Kaminsky that got a lot of backlash in regards to the way that they communicated and talked about IUL at the time. And so we've obviously just learned a lot in regards to just products and how we communicate them and whatnot. But through that journey of listening to Caleb, I started looking at other people that we're now friends with, whether that's Kim Butler, whether that's Garrett Gunnarsson. There's the whole gamut of people that are in the space that love whole life. And in that kind of season, I started getting plugged into people like Primerica and Symmetry Financial and WFG. And I started going to their networking events and was like this close to getting started with like some of them as well. And I just like said, okay, I can't do this no more. I cannot go down this path of selling life insurance without being confident in what I'm actually offering and selling people. And so I took like a year break, literally, of like not pursuing life insurance, except educating myself. And I actually hear that a lot of times from clients where they're like, hey, like I've been watching content for like 6 months and just like, I'm still learning this. I'm like, hey, I get it. Like I went down for an entire year of learning VUL, IUL, UL, whole life, why whole life this way, why so, and these companies, and trying to make an educated decision. And the epiphany that I had, long story short, was all financial products really have a place in financial planning to some degree or another, right? And depending on the person's wants, needs, what they desire out of life, and their roadmap for clarity for their end result in life, you essentially then take that financial product to help them get to the end result. And as long as it's educated correctly, designed correctly for the person's wants, then there's not a product that can be essentially quote unquote better on a standalone basis. And what ends up making it better than the next is plugging it into helping the person achieve their financial goal. And that was the epiphany that I had at the end of the day. And so that's kind of like the drum that I continue to pound, is that I want to constantly, and I want our team to constantly speak highly and sophisticated about products. No like gray areas, like talk about how it really works and functions. And if people don't like it, then it wasn't meant for them. And then necessarily don't badmouth essentially a product. You could talk about how this product may not be great for this person's situation, or how somebody could maybe be unethical because they designed it inappropriately for the person's goals. And here's why and how, but don't on a standalone without any understanding and merit of the person you're speaking to, just put it in a black box and say it's bad inherently.
It's well said. Well said. What do you remember the moment that you were like, oh, whole life, there's something here, like this is attractive? Because I also know that you are in crypto, you do some real estate investing. You're like, what was the epiphany that like life insurance plays a role in some of your portfolio?
Yeah, and it was actually before I joined Better Wealth. So this was like 6 years ago now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I went down that journey of like researching and studying and looking at all these different policies and people and videos. And I just decided that for where I'm at in life, the safest, most foundational place to store money without any uncertainty of what could be, because I then came to a conclusion that I don't know fully the ins and outs of IULs for what could be. Like there could be a chance to lapse, and I'm just not at that stage of life where I'm willing to risk potentially that at that time. And I got set up with a Mass Mutual whole life policy, and I it's actually funny because Caleb probably was mad at me at the time because him and I were actually really good friends. He wasn't really mad, but he's probably like, what the heck? And I hear this all the time happen in business where people are like, oh, like we were really good friends. Like, why didn't you get a policy with me? Or like, you were really good friends. Like, why'd you go with somebody else? That's what happened. Like Caleb was a really good friend. We've connected for like a couple of years at that point in time. And I decided to get a policy with somebody else. And ironically, the policy that got set up for me was actually a policy that was not advantageous for my goals. It was like a
karma in real time, dude.
Yeah, probably. It was like probably like a 70% base, 30% PUA. Yikes. And it was like $20,000 a year that I was wanting to put into it. And like the first year cash value was like $4,000 or something like that. And I like signed the dotted because I like just trusted the person, and I wasn't still learning the education. I was like, I just need to jump into this. I just need to do this because I know there's something here. But I was still trying to figure out the design perspective. I got this like yuck feeling in my gut for like a solid month. It was just like something doesn't feel right. It's like I feel icky. I just feel almost like I got used in regards to like what I set up after like everything that I knew. And I went back to this person and I just kind of like ripped him one. I was like, you're unethical. You didn't give me exactly what I wanted. And I went ham. And this was a while ago. So obviously the way I communicate now is a little different, things that I know, but I did not feel good. So it was a lot of money at the time to be able to put into a policy to justify to starting something, and feeling like I got scammed was not a good feeling. And I know that there's people out there that are in the space of consumers that are trying to find a policy that feel the same way. They look at their policies today and they're like, I have $0 in the first year or $0 in the second year. And then they come and watch a video like ours and they're like, wow, like there's such a massive difference in cash value that I didn't even know. Right. And that's kind of where we try to come down from an education perspective. The best case scenario for me, what ended up happening is the guy he wasn't the person that knew how to design stuff. He didn't know how to design stuff. So he had to bring in an expert who actually knew how to design it. Luckily, Mass Mutual had this essentially clause that within a certain time frame, I could change the policy. So it got changed. It ended up being a 20% base, 80% PUA. And the first year had closer to like $15,000 of cash value. And that was like, now this is what I want. I feel a lot better. And I've had that policy ever since. And so that was just kind of like that journey to help me like solidify where I'm at today too.
I appreciate you sharing that. How only in our space, I think, could someone be studying life insurance for over a year and still get set up with a policy like that, because there's like education is like a black box. There's not a ton of people that know this kind of stuff. And then it's just so interesting to know like the lack of I don't know, it's not even the unity is not even the right word, but like the lack of transparency that goes on. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to do. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this show is we're obviously talking in a different light, but you're gonna like in real time. Like I want to be able, like if we have a video that goes viral for us, or if we have certain comments to like, this is the show where we're gonna respond to some comments. This is the show that we're gonna maybe react to things in real time. And this is the show that we're going to rub some people the wrong way. I know that there are people in the space that don't appreciate our videos because they feel exposed. They set up a policy and their clients come watch our videos and then go back and, maybe in a different way, Dom, but say like, what the heck?
I would agree with that. Even let's look at our content today and like even when we started, Caleb, and that was the content that I would have loved and craved, of just like looking at the numbers, seeing live illustrations. I think at the time there was just a lot of, if there was content, it was the philosophy and how it worked and the concept. And that's where I was like, okay, I know there's something here, but I could never find the numbers. And like people always want, like, I want to see the numbers, or for myself, I wanted to go in the software and design it, but I wasn't necessarily appointed with a company that could do it. Or even if I I think I maybe was the time, I didn't know how to design them. So I didn't know what I was even looking at, right? So that becomes challenging. So you have to find somebody you trust, like so on and so forth. And there are friends that I have in the space that we were close with, that they were telling me a couple of years ago, they were like, yeah, like we would just present this to them. We'd essentially like the concept, we would go through the health process, and we would just blanket statement, get everybody set up with a 40 base, 60 PUA across the board. And they didn't even know, like they would just have it and they would know. And then they would come back a year two, and then they would talk about and maybe potentially a different design. And sometimes they'd even use that first policy to leverage to start another policy within that same workflow. And I don't think they do that anymore, because I think that is the beautiful part about education and content. I think was actually a movement that we've started. There's one other person out there that I do believe that started the foundation of like doing education right, which I do really appreciate. But people are starting to see that. And because of that, they can't necessarily hide, because it does, like you said, get exposed. And everybody, I think, collectively is starting to change on how they communicate and starting to mature, which I really love.
Hey, it's Caleb Guilliams here. I'm just interrupting this video quickly to invite you to check out our And Asset Vault. You may have been there. We've actually revamping it. And if you are somebody that wants to learn more about, is life insurance the right fit for me? Does this And Asset make sense? Like, does this actually help me be more efficient? We've put together a 10-minute documentary style video that I think does a really, really good job giving the history, why the And Asset, different setups and designs that we use. And then we have an And Asset Vault that gives like case studies, calculators, handbooks, and so much more. We are here to serve you, whether it's a conversation, whether it's education, or the video. So make sure to go check out andasset.com/vault to learn more.
I love it. All right. So my epiphany was, I grew up in Wisconsin, worked at a bank with the dream to help people with their money, more of like the hedge fund, like traditional financial advisor route. That was kind of the goal at the time. And then got exposed to life insurance for the first time when I was like 18. And I got life license. I was working as the investment assistant at the time, and I loved it. And I was doing term insurance. And I have some very cringy videos of me pretty much doing like a term presentation. And the pitch was, all right, if people are going to get mortgages, instead of doing mortgage insurance, which is not a great product if you know what it really is. I mean, you'd be way better off just getting level term insurance. And so the thought process was like, hey, if people get mortgages, send them over to me. I'll do a life insurance quote, and get them started. And so I just remember like selling your first term insurance, dude. It was like the greatest feeling of all time. Like I don't know. I was more excited about that than, I mean, we have the honor of working with some incredible people, and it was less of a money thing. It was more of like, man, I'm doing it. Like you always remember your first, and I remember the first couple clients, and it's just like, it was just awesome. So that was like my intro to life insurance, but it was purely, the pitch was term insurance. You need this for your family, and, be a good spouse, be a good husband, be a good wife, and insure yourself. And it was always like, well, you could get $1 million, but what? Like, it was just always, I was just like, didn't want to rock the boat at all. And I was afraid to even say like, you need this much coverage. Like, what's your budget? Let me get you, like, it was just cringy, but I was trying my best. And I think many people can relate when you're first getting started. It is intimidating to know how to even start. And so I'm learning all this stuff, and then I'm learning about permanent life insurance, but I just was very against permanent life insurance because it's a terrible investment, blah, 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 blah. And so I remember going to an event, and this was right at the time when the person running our investment department left, and I took over the investment department at 19 years old. So just there's a story in itself, but had a crazy opportunity there. So I'm learning, I'm meeting with people, and I go to this conference to learn about life insurance, and I'm like very against life insurance. One of the things you got to know about me is like I'm a high quick start, so I'm constantly wanting to get moving, but I'm high fact finder. Dom can tell you firsthand, it's a pain to work with because I'm like, let's get moving yesterday, and I want to know all the details before we make a decision. And so it's very frustrating, but it is what it is. That's who I am. And so I'm like that. I'm like, I want to grow. I want to be successful. I want to help people. I had this drive, but I'm like, I'm not going to sell anything that I don't understand, which that leads you to a frustrating point because nobody knows what they're talking about in this. It's just so frustrating. So we all kind of had a similar journey. I mean, Austin, a little bit different because you knew you met us from the beginning, but you had your own journey. But like if you didn't have the right people to start with, it's very frustrating. So I went to this event, and it was an event helping people set up life insurance to pay off debt. Super interesting. It was like Dave Ramsey meets Nelson Nash, and they had a kid, and that was what I learned. And I was like, okay, this is really interesting. Parts of it that were like awesome. They were software and all, but like there's this thing in the back of my head that I was just like, there's something that doesn't add up. Like it just doesn't make sense. And so I was like asking this kid, I think they were just frustrated because they're like, dude, you're a 19-year-old kid. You've produced nothing. You're a waste of my time. Go find a different job. But they mentioned a few books, and those few books I read, one of them being this book right here, which we'll do a book review, R. Nelson Nash, Becoming Your Own Banker, which at the time didn't really help me because I read it. I was like, I'm more confused, but it opened up the gateway to learning some other things, and had many conversations, got software, had conversations. That's when I got first introduced to Todd Langford, his wife, Kim Butler. I hung out with some of the Paradigm Life people. I met Russ Morgan at Wealth About Wall Street. I went to Truth Training. I met Don Blanton at Circle of Wealth. Got introduced to the Wealth Building Cornerstone people. Like just for those, like I'm just name dropping a bunch of legends in our space that are doing different things. And like I started learning from them. And I think one of the best decisions I made was I'm not going to look at this as a way to make money. I'm going to look at this as a way to learn. And so that was like the commitment of I made a lot of mistakes. That was one thing that I so glad I did, and created the foundation of why we're all here. Is like, hey, let's build this right foundation. And so the mission I had was to help people see and reach their highest potential. That was like at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do. And I'm like, if there's a reason for life insurance, I want to know it. But if not, I want nothing to do with it. And I remember the epiphany that I had was I was looking at it as an investment. A lot of people that watch me talk, they're like, Caleb, why do you always say it's not an investment? It's not an investment. The reason is it's therapy for me. I think it's like I'm still traumatized to this day of like how I was taught about life insurance as like it's an investment. And it's cringy on even probably the first people that I started talking to is like, this is an investment that's going to change your family's life. And so I'm like learning some of this stuff. And I remember the epiphany for me was, oh, this is an and I didn't invent the and asset. This was things that people taught way before we were born kind of deal. But it was like, it hit me that I was like, oh, I've been seeing this as a thing, but actually this is like the key that unlocks lots of things, and lots of things are better than one thing or two things. And it was like again, I couldn't articulate it at the time, but like more benefits are better than less benefits, and you get more benefits by having this contract versus just going directly into this thing. And then the epiphany was like, oh, I could use life insurance and invest. I could use life insurance and start businesses. I could use life insurance and do these other things. And over time, 1 + 1 = more than 2. Why wouldn't I do that? And that was the thing. And candidly, the idea of borrowing against, like the banking idea, the using your money while you're alive, was a thing that I was like all in on. And if you read the And Asset, you're going to see like that was the big focus that I had. And then the other epiphany on the back end of that was like, okay, life insurance is a multi-asset, like, you know, coming soon. Like the multi-asset is something that I'm going to be talking more about. And it's not just the living benefits of using the cash value. It's not just the ability that you can use your money and it grows, but it's the life insurance actually is a very valuable product to have from a protection aspect. It's a valuable product to have in the future when it comes to future cash flow. It's a powerful asset to have from creditor protection. And it's this idea of like, we all are in buildings. There's a foundation that we can't see, but we're in a building right now protected because there's a foundation that we can't see. And I think when it comes to someone's portfolio and their financial life, there's just not a lot of talk about Foundations you need protection. They need to be deep. They're not sexy. But it's essential to building is you need a strong foundation. And the more I've learned about life insurance, the epiphany is like, regardless of who you are, you might be more on the infinite banking side where you want to save more of your money and use it throughout your life. Or you may be on the side of like, no, I'm good. I just want to invest money. I want to invest money for the future. And you're going to use a portion of your portfolio into life insurance. Why? Because it's going to enhance the future benefit. But what we're not talking enough about, I think, is not just enhancing the future benefit, but even if the future benefit was the same or slightly lower, you are better protecting and creating more certainty to get to that future. And that is the aspect that early on I couldn't articulate, couldn't care. I could care less about it, quite frankly. I was just seeing this as like whether I would say it or not, it was like a sexier place to, I wouldn't say it was an investment, but I still looked at it like an investment. And now, you know, many years later, I just have an appreciation of this asset. Like I said this in a video the other day that I've become way less hypey about it. Like even the actual rate of return versus average rate of return, I like cringe at, because that was a way to pitch life insurance competing with the stock market. I would never even have that conversation. Like I think it's a good conversation, but the whole idea of the reason you have that is to create doubt of why you invest in the stocks. And I'm like not anti-stock market. At the time of writing it, I was, because I saw that people investing in the Roth IRA was literally taking away from them putting money in a life insurance. And now I'm like, why did I care about that? Well, that was how I was taught. Like that, there was some of the times you just have to be like, I'm here where I am, and my journey is valuable. And I didn't do anything like malicious, but I'm less hypey when it comes to that. But my conviction on life insurance has never been greater. And it's interesting putting the dots together. Is we're overfunding. We're a big fan. For those of you that don't know what overfunding means, like max funding life insurance is something that we specialize in. That's why people come to us, is like we're really transparent. We set up policies really, really well. And the people that don't necessarily do overfunding a ton, but they're like huge fans of life insurance, they're usually on more of like human life value. They're the ones that are saying like life insurance makes sense even if 100% goes into base. And the reality is they're not wrong. Like if you had to choose between 100% base or no permanent life insurance, I think proper planning still includes some type of permanent life insurance aspect. The third epiphany I would say is like, oh, what if you could take their fundamental education around life insurance and conviction long term, and you could structure the policy a little bit differently, more flexible, early cash value and all. And like, what if you could have both? Because I feel like a lot of people on the infinite banking side are just talking about early cash value and using your money, and they're like doing you a disservice long term about your money long term in life insurance. But then on the flip side, the people that are doing long-term on life insurance is great, but sometimes they can be put in a bad rap, because if you look at the first couple of years, you're giving the talking points to all of our favorite gurus that like to hate on it. And then I was like, man, if like people understood what this would look like, I really believe there'd be a line outside the door. And we've created a small line. I think we would all agree that there's more to come. And the more people learn about this stuff, the more we're going to attract. So that's my epiphany, and I'm sure people in real time learn about all the things that we're learning. So I know where I want to land the plane here soon. Austin, any thoughts? I mean, this is probably the longest you've ever stayed quiet.
Yeah, I know. I've like zipped it.
I feel like
hey.
you need a sticker, dude. We need to give you like a sticker.
Yeah, there we go. So you obviously bring up a lot of good points, Caleb. You did put a lot of seeds of doubt in my mind with the average versus actual rate of return, but I think those were well placed, because you hear about like, oh, S&P 500 does 13% a year, and done that for the last 30 years, and when I read that initially, I was just like kind of dumbfounded. I was like, there's no way. And then you will like this because you just got to wait to the end of the story, is I use a part of that depending on the client. Not everybody calls in with it, but when clients call in, they're like, hey, like, why, like, ultimately, why should I think about life insurance rather than stocks? Like, if they literally bring it up, I'll bring them back to a version of what you had talked about in your book. And you had said, and I take them through this thing as like, okay, let's say you have $100 in stocks, and then this year it does 100%. Then next year, how much you have? I literally let them do the math on their own. Then they come out to $200. I'm like, fantastic. You got $200 now next year, and next year it does 50%. Okay, how much do you have in year 3? Now back to 100. Okay, amazing. So years 1 through 3, what's your actual rate of return? Everyone correctly says 0%. But now I'm like, but calculated by average rate of return, you just did 25% year over year, and that blows their minds. Now, this is very, very key to point out, is that the kind of rate of return of life insurance, this is why I point out, is that it's not a fair apples to apples with everything going on in stocks. So stocks are great, as you said. Stocks are fantastic. We're not anti-stocks better wealth, but internal rate of return is a very different metric than average rate of return, because internal rate of return is literally, I think, what people think of average rate of return is, but it's actually two totally separate metrics. Internal is, point here to point here. What do you need every year to get from that point to that point?
Yep. And
average is just this kind of like phantom metric that kind of means something and kind of doesn't at the same time. So when you said that so many years ago, like that changed my mind, and that changed my life a little bit then, because, it was so hard for me to understand what you were saying. I actually went to like the S&P 500, the last 30 years of it. And I went year to year, and I entered in like, what the gain or loss was for $1,000. And I did it over 30 years to see if doing it every year for 30 years was a different number than if you just did a 13% gain every year. And it's a wildly different number. So I'm glad, even though you're kind of like said, you're kind of cringe over the way that you did that. Like, I'm glad that you put that in there, because it was something that's important to realize, is that like, it doesn't get talked about, but it's different. Now I have a question for you. All right. So my question is, and you're very humble, by the way, you say you're an investment assistant, but you were like in charge of an investment division at your bank, right? Like, isn't that like what you were doing?
Yeah, it was a community bank. So we had about 300 people total. Yeah. And that's a whole nother, met with people and realized firsthand that you had to have more life coaching conversations with people than financial conversations, because some people were never asked ever what they actually wanted out of life, which blew my mind. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The question is, so there was one point when you saw yourself as in a kind of an investment banker or investment assistant, whatever your title was, who used life insurance to kind of solve investment problems. And then there came some point at which you kind of went over this invisible hump where you stopped seeing like life insurance as this auxiliary thing that you were doing. And then now you're kind of looking at it as, what if I made this the main thing that I do? When was that point at which you were like, it's not just this auxiliary thing that I'm doing to help investment problems, is that it's actually, I think, the main thing that I need to do. Do you remember the point at which you crossed over?
I think there's a quote that says something. I screenshotted this. It's like, you're best suited for serving the person that you once were. I think that's Rory Vaden that had that quote. And to answer your question is, the reason I went hardcore into life insurance is I was like, this is so misunderstood. And the upside for I believe, like the upside from a business perspective of sharing something that was so misunderstood seemed really valuable to me, because I was like, okay, there's a ton of financial advisors out there. Probably 300 total financial advisors in the entire country have a real good understanding of insurance. That might be generous. Like, I'm just like, so there's a lot of people out there. I believe, I'm making this crazy claim that I believe life insurance has a role in most people's portfolio, like a role, like a legitimate role. Not that we don't have to hype it up. It doesn't have to be an IUL, like it's just a whole life insurance. And if that's actually the case, there's a business to be said here. And then that was while I was learning learning from people like Paradigm Life, and they were doing everything on the internet. And then it was like, okay, I don't have to just be here in my market of Wisconsin. Like I can serve more people. And the idea of like, okay, I'm already young. People are going to have a hard time taking me seriously. Do I want to be a generalist across the board, or do I want to be like a specialist at this one thing? So that was the bet I made. And, probably to this point, my downfall would be, going back to my personality of being cautious, is I feel like I was never fully like hammered the gas, because I'm like, one product's never going to change your life. Like real estate's not like, it's just hard for me to get on, like, in a perfect world, life insurance, like we should just hammer life insurance. Like life insurance is this will solve it, and that's why we have our own brand, the And Asset, and we're being more intentional there. And a lot of calls that we get are specialized here, but it also is important to me that holistically you don't miss the entire thing. And I would, just because life insurance is amazing, that doesn't mean all your money should go into life insurance. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I did intentionally be like, instead of going the investment banker route or all, I'm going to specialize in life insurance, because I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for growth here because of my journey, because of my frustration of just trying to get answers. And I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity, there's a business opportunity in any frustration you experience.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Dom, I also have some questions for you. What's up?
You don't get to ask them. Sorry, Austin.
No.
Just by sheer time.
Okay.
We got to. We have a meeting in 6 minutes, and so we want to make sure that we're able to.
We were going to be like, yeah, we'll do 2 episodes today to get this thing started right. And we're like, yeah,
that's what we
jokes
did.
On us.
Yeah, exactly. There's Caleb at 12 minutes told Austin. He said, "Hey, please do this in 5 minutes. Your thing, right?" So we are literally 45 minutes in. And it took 3 of us to do so. This is what happens when you get a visionary that is incredible at communicating and sharing the company and the vision and the story, and you get an unrepentant extrovert into the same meeting together. It's going to be a ton of fun. A ton of fun that we're going to do. I might have to be the person that uses the phrase that the young kids use often, which they say, put the fries in the bag, which essentially is just like,
I was waiting for you to say that. I was waiting for you to say that.
Wrap it up, put the fries in the bag.
I've never heard you say that ever. So that's my highlight of the day. Okay, so as we land the plane, we don't know what we're doing. We're gonna have a lot of fun, and this is going to be a casual way to talk about the things that we want to talk about. We will, Joel, this might be news to you. He's our producer. We will have a separate podcast. So if you prefer to listen on Spotify, Apple, and all, like, you can subscribe to the And Asset show, where you can listen to this. Obviously, YouTube, you get to see our beautiful faces. And if we will be showing things, if we react to things, obviously YouTube's going to be a great place there. It'll be on the And Asset channel. And so make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to get notified when we drop episodes. We drop life insurance content on the And Asset show, and then life insurance content and other content on the Better Wealth channel. And if there's anything that we can do to serve you in your practice, your family, review your policies, talk to you about new policies, we want to do that. And thank you so much for playing a role and watching us grow up, and see you next week.